Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the full card of fights for UFC 268, Usman versus Covington 2. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card. So in our first fight, we have in the flyweight division, CJ Vegara versus Osbourne. So in this fight right here, I see that CJ Vegara, he likes to get things done quick. He likes to come out there explosive. It's not a whole lot of setups, not a whole lot of filling out there. He got the faster hands. Both guys are fast, both are explosive. I feel like Osbourne is overall more explosive, but Vegara is the fighter that has the faster hands. But ultimately, I'm gonna lean to Osbourne this one. I just feel like he has more experience. CJ Vegara's best win is he didn't even, that's not even his best win. He lost to him. But I don't forgot his name at this point. Jonathan Martinez beat him well back when, but that was even a very good Jonathan. That was a very deer-like, baby-like Jonathan Martinez, and he fought him a competitive fight. And since then, his best one is Bruno Correa, which is a good fighter, but also not a truly tested fighter. Ultimately, I feel like Osbourne has fought better competition. I like his style. I feel like the overall the faster fighter. Maybe not with the hands, maybe not power-wise with the hands. Like Vegara got the fast hands, the better hands. But ultimately, I just feel like the experience is gonna come through for Osbourne, and also ultimately the fact that he can settle down. Where I feel like Vegara heavily relies on explosive moments. I feel like Osbourne will be able to weather the early moments, settle him out, take him late, and finish him late. So in this fight, I have Osbourne via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the featherweight division, Melsik Baghdasaryan versus Bruno Souza. And how I see this fight right here is Bruno Souza is a student of the Machida Academy. He likes to fight on the outside. Doesn't do very well with pressure. He doesn't take damage the best. Doesn't do well off his back. As I've seen in the Martin Hamlin fight, a fight that they did give to him due to a DQ victory, but he was giving up 10-8 rounds, wasn't looking good. It's not like Martin Hamlin is such a spectacular fighter. He's like about your average MMA wrestler, and he was getting dominated by him. So I feel like Melsik Baghdasaryan is going to crowd his space, crash his legs, crash his body, like slam kicks in his legs, slam kicks in his body, take away those wheels, crowd space probably mix some takedowns if needed or wanted, and can have great success there. Ultimately, I feel like the pressure, the pace, and the damage is going to wear on Bruno Souza, and Baghdasaryan is simply not going to allow him to be pretty out there, not going to allow him to breathe out there, and that's going to wear on him. And I see him stopping Bruno Souza late in the third. So in this fight, I got Melsik Baghdasaryan via third round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the light heavyweight division, Dustin Jacoby versus John Allan. And I feel in this fight, John Allan is just simply in over his head. I feel like at best, his striking really can't present much of a threat for Dustin Jacoby. Grappling can present a threat, but I feel like Jacoby's takedown defense is much solid enough to defend it. And yeah, Jacoby's takedown defense is solid. So I feel like best John Allan's gonna be strategy is gonna be to just latch on to Jacoby. Mix and strike and try to latch on Jacoby. But ultimately Jacoby's gonna be just picking him apart, peeling him off of him. And John Allan's just gonna survive just by trying to cling on to him. That's all he's gonna do is extend himself maybe one round just by trying to be a cling on. Eventually, Jacoby strikes on wear on him. And eventually Jacoby by the second round is gonna be peeling him off very easy, picking him apart, taking advantage of his injuries, clinching him up, slamming knees to his body, elbows to his head. And at that point, John Allan just gonna start to curl up. Jacoby's gonna spin off, put him against the cage, unload on him, and put him out in that second round. So in this fight, I have Dustin Jacoby via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the heavyweight division, John Villante versus Chris Barnett. And how I see this fight right here. So Chris Barnett is a circus fighter to me. And John Villante just at this point, John Villante has been a very inconsistent fighter, but at least he has fought decent competition and has actually beat some decent competition. All I have to say is he beat Corey Anderson. That's enough said. That's the highlight of his career. For some decent guys, put on decent outings against decent guys. Cardio has been an issue for him. Fight IQ has been a bit of an issue for him. So like I said, Chris Barnett can potentially win this fight, but ultimately, like low confidence, gonna avoid this fight, a circus fight, a joke of a fight. But John Villante has at least fought decent competition, whereas Chris Barnett has been on the circus tour. Only fighter I think has been anywhere decent is Walt Harris, and that was like a very fresh, very baby-faced Walt Harris. Outside of that, again, mediocre circus competition. Also, he fought Ben Rothwell in his last fight. That was a real competition. And the only reason he got extended because he's so awkward and so goofy that Ben Rothwell is like, let him play around. And then when he got bored of it, finish him. So Barnett is a joke of a fighter to me. John Villante is inconsistent and can be a bit chinny. But ultimately, I want to favor his experience and his skills over Chris Barnett's circus skill set to ground out decision, probably mixing takedowns here and there, land the flusher shots, whereas Barnett is going to be doing a bunch of goofy stuff and jumping around and skipping. And I just see John Villante grinding out a decision over Barnett in probably sloppy, probably fun, exciting, probably low caliber MMA fight. So in this fight, I got John Villante via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the welterweight division, Jordan Williams versus Ian Garry. And how I see this fight right here between Williams versus Garry, I think Williams presents I'm not gonna say Williams presents nothing solid. He got a solid wrestling background, but I ultimately just feel like again, like I seen a fighter not predicted a similar way for another fighter. And I think it was a perfect prediction, but enough patting myself on the back. But either way, I see another similar thing where a guy's cutting weight when he should not be cutting weight. I feel like he should be working on his skill set instead of trying to work on cutting weight. It's not his weaknesses and his deficiencies are not in the fact that he could cut more weight. It's in the fact that his skills just aren't there. And I like his striking is still very much unpolished, still very raw. He got power. He had chin at middleweight, cut down to welterweight, lost his chin. Striking still very much amateurish. Got some solid wrestling, but nothing super impressive. So I feel like his wrestling improved, like probably stay at middleweight, work on maybe adding more muscle, work on fleshing out his striking game, work on changing his wrestling, go back to his wrestling and build on that, build on his jiu-jitsu. But cutting weight, he's just the same fighter, but even less. And now at a division where he's not super big at, he's even more or less technical for the weight classes average. So he's going down less technical on average, given the other average welterweight. So he's just giving up a lot of stuff. I feel like he could potentially catch Garry. That's his best opportunity. He could potentially try to wrestle Garry for a bit, but I feel like Garry eventually will be either be a shut it down early or eventually shut it down at some point in this fight. If they don't feet, he's going to be exposed. But I feel like this is going to happen in the first round. Garry's takedown is going to hold up pretty well in the first round. Williams might be able to tie him up for a little bit, but eventually Garry's going to start to stop the takedowns, land counters on him, and then start to make him miss these wide looping shots or these telegraph takedowns and telegraph punches. And Garry's going to land clean counters on a frustrated Williams and start to walk him down, pick him apart, and put him out within that first round. So in this fight, I have Ian Garry via first round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Shahbazyan versus Nasruddin Imavov. And that's this fight right here. So you got two young, talented fighters. Shahbazyan probably will have a slight striking advantage. And Imavov does have a tendency to drop his hands and get lazy at times, or lax out there, or defensively negligent out there. So does Shahbazyan, to be honest. So both of these guys are young. Both of these guys can have similar flaws. Ultimately, just to sum it up, I feel like striking could be even. It could lean to Imavov or it could lean to Shahbazyan. But I feel like wrestling definitely needs to Imavov. And then you're going to pick on who has a glaring weakness and the other person has a strength in that area, you would lean to Imavov. He has the strength in wrestling, and Shahbazyan has a clear, glaring weakness in wrestling, and also pacing, and also cardio. And I feel like Imavov could extend them and be a very close competitive fight, but ultimately wrestling is going to be what separates them, and I feel like Imavov is going to be able to get a decision. I feel like Shahbazyan probably has been working on it, but he's said Brunson really exposed it, and then Hermanson re-exposed it. Like he worked on it, but still ultimately Hermanson was able to get a takedown. Yes, those guys are a higher level and have more experience and more skill, but I don't think Imavov is necessarily a guy that's, he's not there yet. I feel like he'll be a guy that will be there and definitely could give a competitive fight to those guys. He might not have the resume there, but I feel like Imavov definitely has skills to, be competitive with those guys. And definitely I feel put on a better performance than Shahbazyan did against either guy. Well, Shahbazyan did a decent guy against Hermanson, but Hermanson's striking really and all that, so I feel like Imavov's overall a better striker than Hermanson. But wrestling, I feel like Hermanson's wrestling definitely his top control is much better than Imavov at this given juncture. But ultimately, again, tight, close fight, but Imavov's wrestling being the deciding factor, the deciding factor, the leaning factor, probably be to score a takedown maybe in the first two rounds, and also to edge one of those rounds, if not both of those rounds. Then the third round, that'd be like the icing on the cake. Be to start unloading on Shahbazyan, he starts to fade in the third round, and then start to score the takedown at the end just to ice that round and still out a pretty clear round for him. Maybe even make it a 10-8 round, depending on how Shahbazyan looks on the bottom. So in this fight, I have Nasruddin Imavov via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the it's not the heavyweight, it's not the light heavyweight, in the middleweight division, Phil Hawes versus Chris Curtis. And how I see this fight right here is, I see Chris Curtis have all the skills, very experienced, very skilled, a bit of a wrestling deficiency, and definitely an output deficiency, and definitely in a gas or a issue putting the foot on the gas with Chris Curtis. So I feel like it's gonna come down to the fact Chris Curtis is gonna have all the skills. He's gonna look good. He's gonna look clean. He's gonna look like he belongs. He's gonna look like maybe he can win this one. But ultimately, he's not gonna step up when he needs to step up. And Phil Hall is going to be the one landing the heavier shots, to be one doing the forward pressure. Chris Curtis is going to accept the back foot too much. And it's going to allow Phil Hall to score takedowns. Maybe not the flushes takedown, maybe not super control with him where he's just taking him down, dominating him, ground and pound, but at least hold him and, draining time off the clock, time up, and, pretty much time when Chris Curtis is not being effective or in a position where he's doing damage or doing anything to control the fight. And Phil Hall is simply going to out-pressure him, land the heavier shots, and be in control of this fight with the takedowns or the clinch control. And Chris Curtis is going to have his moments, but again, when he does have those moments, he's just simply not going to step on the gas and do what needs to be done to get the fight finished or to really steal these rounds. Be a little, just not enough. Just not enough output and not enough intensity. But again, look the part of a fight that belongs here. Look skilled, look composed, look like a guy. Where has he been all these years? Why hasn't he been in UFC? Who's this guy? But ultimately, a guy that's going to say, oh, this is why he hasn't been in the UFC. Oh, and this is why this guy isn't this and why this guy isn't that. But a close competitive fight. But ultimately, Phil Hall is just doing more, landing heavy shots, scoring the takedowns, and edging in the close fight. And Chris Curtis just simply not doing enough. So in this fight, I have Phil Hall's via decision. Now to our next fight. We have in the lightweight division, Iaquinta versus Bobby Green. And how I see this fight right here is Iaquinta hasn't fought in 2 years, riding a pretty bad losing streak with like a 2 or 3 fight losing streak. I think it was Khabib, and then it was he might have beat Kevin Lee out after that, I believe, but I don't know. But I'll wait at least a 2 fight losing streak to Cerrone and to Hooker. The Cerrone one looking real bad at this given moment. By the way, excluding past losses, inactivity, and riding 2 fight losing streak, Bobby Green coming off a loss as well, but I feel like Bobby Green has been looking much better. All his fights have been very competitive. All of them could have really, even his losses could have leaned to him. I feel like Ronaldo fight should lean to him. I feel like Fiziev fight. I think I picked all his people. Well, I picked him against Ronaldo. I picked Ronaldo. I picked him against Ronaldo, but that fight they edged for Ronaldo. I feel like that fight should have went for him. I picked Fiziev against him. Fiziev won, so good for me. But I feel like he beat Fiziev. But either way, you know how the judges be. But I feel like even given the fact that how the judges judge, I feel like it's not going to be a very good fight for Iaquinta. I feel like he's a fighter, definitely a well-rounded, but he doesn't mix in his grappling all that much. And it's not going to be, even if he does mix it in, Bobby Green has pretty solid takedown defense, good scramblability. It's not going to be there to be held and be laid on. And like I said, Iaquinta doesn't do very much. And it's like, if you don't do it very much and you're not really known for that, even though you're good at it in the gym, it doesn't translate unless you consistently do it out there in the game. Just like somebody can shoot 3-pointers and be 100% in the gym, but you're not doing that out there on the NBA court. You can be a guy that's had 50% accuracy or 50% has pretty high, like a 20%, 15%, 30% accuracy with your 3-pointers or your 2-pointers or whatnot, or from the field goal percentage. But I'm going to say the same thing with Iaquinta. So hasn't been active. I feel like Bobby Green's a better boxer. I feel like Iaquinta's little lean over stance is not going to favor him too much. It's going to make him shorter and shorter on his shots, make him reach more. And Bobby Green's going to be able to easily shoulder roll his overhands, be able to pepper him up with a jab, be in and out of range. And Iaquinta's going to be hitting air and once again getting his face bust up, getting his leg chewed up if Bobby Green wants to do that. But more often than not, it's going to be Bobby Green's boxing, just being leagues ahead, being too sharp, being too clean. And this, like I said, it's being a better boxer, being longer, rangier, better defensively, better eyes, better read. And just a fresher fighter because he's been out there, been active, whereas Iaquinta's going to be stiff and rusty. And Bobby Green's going to look clean, look smooth, and probably just box him up to a decision. So in this one, I have Bobby Green via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in the middleweight division, Andreas Michailidis versus Alex Pereira. And how I see this fight right here between Michailidis versus Pereira is, I think Michailidis is going to come in with a pretty good game. I feel like Pereira, the easier prediction will be Michailidis, but I'm going to lean to Pereira. I feel like he's been training for a long time in MMA, even though he hasn't had much experience professionally. He's been around some solid guys, and he has fought fights that he took a long layoff and came back and fought again and fought one fight. So not a lot of experience inside the cage, but a wealth of experience outside the cage. So even though he's 3-1, I feel like his experience is going to be much higher than that. Because he's probably been in Brazil, probably been bumping shoulders, been training a lot of MMA guys and striking, and been brought into MMA guys and probably worked on some skill sets. So a lot of speculation. And this definitely be a fight that could potentially end up on where I went wrong. But I feel like he's going to come in prepared. And he's been, been around the right guys. And they've been given receiving good praise by some very high level guys. Glover Sheriff had him in his camp for Jan Blachowicz. So, and he said this guy is more than just a kickboxer. So I'm gonna I'm gonna value their word basically. And Michailidis is a very underrated wrestler, very underrated grappler. But I feel like Pereira's gonna be early gonna have issues with defending the takedowns, but or at least dealing with the takedowns and finding that space. But I feel like in those little gaps, it's gonna be able to land clean counters and be able to affect Michailidis early on. But Michailidis probably be able to edge out that first round with his control time and probably higher output. But I think in that second round, those little feints and those little counters gonna start to draw factor, and Michailidis is gonna start to read into the feints of Pereira too much, read into the shots of Pereira too much, and Pereira's going to eventually be able to start to draw out takedown attempts, draw out shots, and make him overcommit with his striking, overcommit with his takedowns. And from there, Pereira's going to be able to get the underhooks, land knees, circle out, and start to find those spaces, find those gaps, and start to add on to the dividends he paid early on in the first round, like landing leg kicks, landing body kicks, landing knees, landing elbows on the inside, landing clean counter hooks on Michailidis. Then that second round, like I say, you're gonna have Michailidis biting on counters, biting on feints, biting on head feints, biting on biting on shots and biting on looks from Pereira. And from there, Pereira's gonna start to land his shots, flushing and increase those opportunities where he is landing, and those can increase the opportunities where he's not in the clinch, and fully capitalize on them and be able to put Michailidis out in the second round. So in this fight, I have Alex Pereira via second round TKO. Now onto our main card. So in our first fight on the main card, we have in the lightweight division, Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. So in this fight right here between Gaethje versus Chandler, you got the former World Series of Fighting lightweight champion versus the former several-time Bellator world champion, Michael Chandler. So how I see this one right here is I definitely think Michael Chandler's game. I definitely think both guys are game. Both guys have solid legacy, solid careers. But yeah, two solid guys right here. But how I see this fight right here, I think Chandler presents good challenges for Gaethje. I think it will definitely look to test Gaethje's wrestling defense, look to test Gaethje's grappling. But I feel like Gaethje will be able to address it pretty well. You can say, oh, Gaethje was this and Gaethje is that, and probably is the case. Like his wrestling defense not as great as people would think it is. His grappling is definitely got exposed by that security guard and by Khabib. So he got tapped up by Khabib. He got tapped up by the Nelk Boys security guard. So his grappling definitely needs some work. But I feel like that's something he's been working on. I think he's expecting Chandler to do it. I definitely think Chandler will have to be good early, but I feel like Gaethje will wear on him late. Like I feel like the takedown will be there early, or at least like as far as getting the takedown. I don't know about controlling the takedown necessarily, but I feel like getting the takedown will be there early for Chandler. I feel like that right hand will be there for Chandler early, but I feel like Gaethje will be able to eat it, probably wear it a bit, probably feel it a little bit, be able to recover. But I feel like Gaethje's leg kick will be there as well, and I feel like he'll be able to land it, and I'll be able to wear on Chandler as the fight goes on. I feel like once the fight starts to settle on and Gaethje's able to get past some of that first round adversity, I feel like he'll start to be able to land some combinations on Chandler, and I feel like Chandler won't be able to wear them as well as Gaethje's wearing. Like I said, the leg kick will already start to wear on him, have him limping a bit, probably within the first round, by the end of the first round. And then once Gaethje gets a feel for what Chandler's doing, I feel like Chandler, this is not even the best version of Chandler. I feel like his third or second run in the lightweight champion was his best run up until he lost to Brett Primus. Like he got his leg kicked, and then from then I feel like after recovering from that win, I feel like he started to fade a little bit. And I feel like he was actually setting up his shots at first. Now I feel like he kind of just relies too much on his power. Like his power was already there. He didn't need to do it. He just set it up, followed behind with the power. Like he set his punches up and then followed behind, and it was clean, sharp. Then after that, after that Brett Primus fight or one of these fights, it's like he just started to look for the power and not really set it up as much, or look for one combination, and try to look for it instead of just let it happen. And I feel like that became a bad thing for him. I mean, it kind of worked for Dan Hooker. It was working for a bit against Charles Oliveira, but again, he kept doing it, telegraphing the same exact combination against Charles Oliveira, and eventually Charles Oliveira saw it. And also, Michael Chandler, when he's hurt, his defense isn't all that smart. To run away from punches, you all rocking, you run away punches instead of covering up, rolling with the shots, and maybe trying to clinch or go for a takedown. I mean, at times he does go for a takedown when he's hurt, but sometimes his striking defense when hurt can be very low intelligence. But either way, I think Chandler will be good early. We'll be to find stuff early. But ultimately, I feel like Gaethje will be, like I said, the dividends to the leg will pay off pretty early, and then we'll start to see full effects in that second round, like at the start of the second round. And then he'll get a good read for what Chandler is doing by the first round. Get a good read for his speed, get a good read for his takedowns, get a good read for his setups. And also, like, it's kind of going to help him because it's not like he's doing too many steps. Like, he's going to probably fall into the same pattern with the same combination, whereas Gaethje will have good reflexes and be able to land stuff, not just off the fact of a combination that, you just train, but off of stuff you see in the cage. Gaethje has good reflexive counters that aren't all necessary. Oh, I just trained this or something, or this one, like, I just do this one combination. Like, he'll be able to react and respond to what you're giving him. Well, Chandler will only be able to, do what he's trained, is what I'm saying. Like, maybe some good reflexive takedowns, but as far as reflective counters or changing up his footwork in the fight, like, I'm not gonna see that from Chandler. Like, ultimately, I feel like Gaethje again will be able to respond better, will be able to adjust better. Chandler will have maybe have a good first round, but ultimately, getting the leg kicks, combination of counters, and Chandler won't be able to wear them as well. And once Chandler's hurt, I don't see him responding as well. And I start to see Gaethje walk him down, and I see him putting him out within that second round. So in this fight, I got Justin Gaethje via second round TKO. Now to our next fight, we have in the featherweight division, Shane Burgos versus Billy Qurantillo. And how I see this fight right here between Burgos versus Billy Q, I think Billy Q is a very, very solid fighter and a very live dog at law. I'm turning British over here, but a very live dog out here is Billy Q. But ultimately, I'm going to have to lean to Shane Burgos. I feel like he's fought better competition. And that hasn't necessarily fared the best against the best competition, but I feel like he's fought better competition. I feel like he's a better striker. I feel like his grappling is underrated. And I feel like Billy Q's, his wins are being highly overestimated. Like, who has he really beat? Gabriel Benitez is a solid fighter, but he's nowhere near the level of Shane Burgos. And also, Gabriel Benitez grappling is very questionable, very, very much questionable. And Shane Burgos grappling is very much underrated. So I feel like they can match each other in the grappling or cancel out the grappling. Then on feet, Shane Burgos might not initiate grappling. He could definitely cancel grappling pretty well. And definitely pretty solid off his back as well. So it's not going to be a case where he can, dead fish on the ground. And on the feet, like I said, I just feel like he has a sharper counter, the sharper boxing. And you could say his chin is this and chin is that, but he got cracked by some pretty good guys. Not like he's been what's his name? The people he's been cracked by have very heavy hands. I feel like their hands are heavier than Billy Q and also are much more rateable strikers than Billy Q. So I feel like I said, I feel like you could cancel out the grappling almost or even it out. Then on the feet, I just feel like Shane Burgos is more experienced, and I feel like he's just a more polished striker, more polished boxer, more polished overall striker. And that's going to lead him getting a decision. I feel like it's going to be a very tight matchup. Both of these guys got dog in them. Both of these guys have no quit in them. So I don't see it as a stoppage. Stoppage is definitely possible, but I feel like it's going to be a bar-burning fight that Burgos going to get the better of. And also, you might say Billy Q has a high output. When I look at the stats, Shane Burgos actually has the higher output. But yeah, I feel like Shane Burgos is going to be able to go to the body, walk him down, stay in his face, land a cleaner combination, cleaner counters. Billy Q is not going to be no quitter out there. He's probably going to fire back. Probably gonna look for the takedowns, but Burgos gonna be to respond well. But a nice bar-burning back and forth fight that Burgos ultimately gonna land a cleaner counter, the cleaner shots, and be the one with the forward pressure more often than not in this fight. So in this fight, I have Shane Burgos via decision. Now on to our next fight, we have in the bantamweight division, Frankie Edgar versus Marlon Vera. And how I see this one is, I think Marlon Vera is definitely the young guy, like 28, 29 versus like the 40-year-old Frankie Edgar, so like 11 years his senior, but I'm leaning to Frankie Edgar. I'm leaning to the vet in this one. I feel like a lot of people are counting Frankie Edgar out just because of this and because of that. But look at the level of competition. And this is not just MMA match like, oh, he beat him and he beat him, so Frankie Edgar is going to win because he beat him. It's not that. Well, I'm just saying that Frankie Edgar, look at the competition that Frankie Edgar has for, and literally all those people I would bet to beat Marlon Vera. I would put solid money on him to beat Marlon Vera. And that's not MMA math or MMA cash, but that just is what it is. So all I'm really trying to say with that is, don't count Frankie Edgar out just because of who he lost. He beat Pedro Munoz in a very close fight. Maybe should have leaned to Pedro Munoz, but nonetheless fought him very hard through 5 rounds and was able to get his hand raised. That's an accomplishment in its own. We see how good Pedro Munoz is. We seen the people he lost to, Jose Aldo, lost to Max Holloway in a very close fight, or at least it was a fight that was highly competitive. You can't not say it wasn't competitive. So Frankie Edgar, Corey Sandhagen, Cota Flying need to fight, didn't really get a chance to materialize, but good win by Corey Sandhagen, good study, good read, and set it up real well. It wasn't really even set up, but either way, matter of fact, he did set up, but good read, good setup from Corey Sandhagen. But a fight that didn't play out. And other fights were stylistically aren't the best, but I feel like he matches up pretty well with Marlon Vera. I feel like Marlon Vera's takedown offense can be a bit questionable. Marlon Vera has been working on wrestling, does still have the height and reach over Frankie Edgar. But I feel like Frankie Edgar will be able to mix it up. Shouldn't have too much issue with Vera striking. Should be able to find takedowns. And I see this a very close fight that's ultimately decided by the takedowns of Frank Edgar. Takedowns and control time of Frank Edgar. I feel like he should be able to have good success with his takedowns. And that should be the difference. Like get takedowns, get control time. Maybe not early, but wear on him with his pressure, wear on with his volume, his combination, his level changes, and then start to draw those takedowns and be able to ground out a very close decision over Marlon Vera. And also, I was not very impressed with Marlon Vera's last fight over Davey Grant. Was not impressed at all, and feel like that fight could have very much been a split decision, or maybe even went to Davey Grant. To be honest, very close in my opinion. But matter of fact, it should have went to Marlon Vera. He earned that decision, but still very very close, and could have easily been a split decision. But again, feel like Frank close fight, but Frankie Edgar is gonna be an edge with some takedowns and control them. I feel like the people he has all fought prior have had much better takedown defense. So it looked like Frank Edgar's wrestling is diminishing so much. But look at who he fought. All those guys have real solid takedown defense, and Pedro Munoz has super solid takedown defense, and along with a legendary guillotine. So all things factored, he still got 2 takedowns on him. Who really gets 2 takedowns? Who has gotten any takedowns on Pedro Munoz in the last like 5 years? Only Frankie Edgar. So things to factor. So very close fight, edged by the takedowns of Frankie Edgar. So in this fight, I have Frankie Edgar via decision. Now to our next fight, we have in our co-main event in the women's strawweight division for the undisputed strawweight title. So in this fight, we have Rose Namajunas versus Weili Zhang. And how I see this one right here is I feel like Weili Zhang doing all the things she needs to do to get the win. Yeah, she's doing all the stuff she needs to get the win, going train with Henry Cejudo, looking to work on the inside, not fight on the outside, looking to mix in wrestling. But I feel like ultimately good stuff to do, but in one training camp, it's not going to be the end all be all. Or if she did it for a year, I feel like it needs more time than that for it to really, mature her game to truly mature, those skills and skill set to truly mature. And ultimately, people gonna fall back in patterns, or ultimately they're gonna try to do something, and they're not gonna be able to do it to the degree they need to do it. She's not gonna come out there within that year and be Carla Esparza in the wrestling and grappling. And I'm not saying she has bad grappling or needs such improvement, but I feel like ultimately it's gonna play the Rose Namajunas. I feel like Rose Namajunas' grappling is very, very solid. And I feel like she will have the submission grappling advantage. And ultimately that's just going that not being your game is going to tire you out. You trying to, try to grapple with a grappler. That's what Rose Namajunas does. Especially she does. It's been doing this in camp for a long time. And that's one of her strongest skills. Even though she don't use it so much, it's going to be more natural to her than Weili Zhang. So Weili Zhang might be the having most, maybe to score a takedown, but ultimately she's going to end up battling submissions and trying to survive and defend these submission attempts from Namajunas and not really be able to get off her own offense. On her feet, try to come in, she's going to be getting hit with counter, like doing stuff that she's unfamiliar with and hasn't done in a full real life fight situation. Maybe in the cage in her training, maybe in the streets, whoever, but not in the cage against a high level opposition. Like I said, she might be able to find that success, but ultimately I feel like it's going to take her away from her game, where I feel like the best thing for her to do is just be herself, maybe mixing some takedowns, but ultimately keep his fight striking, try to avoid the big spectacular moments from Rose Namajunas and take her late and then look to dominate her late. And I mean, that is part of the game, like try to wrestle her early, then dominate. But I feel like ultimately that wrestling going to tire her out herself. Like it's going to backfire, end up tiring out the arms of Weili Zhang. All that wrestling is exhausting. All that grappling is exhausting. Namajunas is that skinny string being, so she's probably going to enjoy that. Where I feel like striking will wear on Namajunas. Like, digging to her skinny body, digging to her skinny legs, touching her lollipop head is going to wear on her. But grappling is going to give her ability to latch up with you, go for submissions and she's gonna be in her element there, and she's not gonna really spend too much energy. Whereas Weili Zhang's gonna spend a lot of energy trying to hold her down, trying to land ground and pound, trying to defend submissions, and ultimately Rose Namajunas will be the one landing cleaner shots. And Weili Zhang's gonna spend a lot of energy trying to go for takedowns and try to grapple her. And then in the later rounds, when Weili Zhang's gonna turn up, she's gonna be tired. But matter of fact, both of them probably be tired. But again, it's not gonna be to the degree where Namajunas is still gonna be fresh enough. Probably might lose a round, like it's typical. Rose Namajunas is a fighter that doesn't do the best, in competitive fights if they go late. But early on, she's a beast. But if they go late, she kind of fades. So I feel like early rounds still will be Rose Namajunas. And Weili Zhang ultimately not going to tire Namajunas out as much as she would want to have tired her out. They go in that 4th and 5th round. Rose going to still be very competitive in those 4th and 5th rounds. Maybe Zhang still outstrikes her in those 4th and 5th rounds. But first round probably go Namajunas. Late rounds probably be tossed up. 5th round probably be Zhang. But a very close fight. But ultimately, Weili Zhang's strategy backfired against her a little bit. And Namajunas' track record of winning all her rematches, and all her rematches she has won them, and all her rematches have been close, a bit controversial decision, like the Teacher Torres fight was pretty close. Could have went the other way. Joanna on Jacek's second fight could have went either way. Yeah, pretty much all of them were close fights that could have went the other way. So I see the kind of playing in similar fashion. And I see Weili Zhang's strategy kind of backfiring against her in a very close fight. Namajunas still being fresh in the later rounds enough to make them close and competitive and eking out a close decision over Weili Zhang. So in this fight, I have Rose Namajunas via decision. Now to our main event, we have in the welterweight division for the undisputed welterweight title, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2. And how I see this fight, so how I see this fight between Usman versus Covington 2, I don't feel like a whole lot has changed. I feel like Covington feel like he did this and did that. He changed camp. He getting more focused on himself. He's not around the haters and the virgins or whatnot, whatever you may say. He still got his paid models and paid prostitutes to take videos with him and stuff. Still a virgin himself, but either way, not a whole lot has changed. I felt more has changed for Usman. Maybe at most he can be a little bit overconfident at best. But I feel like Usman's the one who has made more improvements. Still has a lot of stuff that he can improve upon. He might feel like it doesn't feel like that. But ultimately, at the bare true root of this fight, I feel like it ultimately is still very much the same. Both of these guys have high cardio. Both of these guys can push a high pace. Covington could definitely push a higher pace, could definitely throw up more volume. But ultimately, it's not like he's outstriking Usman 2-1 on average or anything like that. Or in the fight, it wasn't that case the first fight. And even the first fight, you could say Covington was doing this, Covington doing that. But as I said before, Usman was the one I feel like was still ultimately, in my opinion, winning the fight from the jump. Like, he was the one paying dividends, digging to the body. Yes, Covington would land some good shots over the top. Yes, Covington was throwing more shots, landing more shots and whatnot. But Usman, it's not like Covington was dropping Usman or had Usman rocking on stilts and stuff the whole fight. Covington was never landing with such a power. He might have caught him off with a pride with a couple shots. He might have caught his attention with some shots, but at no point was Usman in no super danger or was Usman ever truly hurt. Like, he was feeling some shots, but nothing crazy. But Covington was feeling every single body shot. And like I said, they weren't really showing these in the highlights, but that was really probably one of the most important shots in the whole fight, the body shots. And they weren't showing, they don't show those in the highlights. But again, I feel like the body shots were very smart. And I feel like overall, Usman had a much higher striking IQ than Covington. And also, Usman, again, like bare basic, Usman hits harder. He fights at just as much as a high level, high capacity, high pace, and high volume as Covington. Covington, yes, he does throw more. Yes, he fights at a higher pace, but ultimately Usman's pace isn't that much behind, and Usman's volume isn't that much behind. And also on top of that, Usman hits harder. And I also feel like Usman's striking IQ is higher. Wrestling can even, maybe Covington's a better wrestler, but Usman probably stronger. So a lot of things, they cancel out or match each other in other ways. But ultimately, I feel like Covington again is going to be throwing more volume, but Usman this time going to invest in that body even earlier and with more confidence. Be to walk Covington down. I feel like Covington's going to try to wrestle, but Usman's going to be a match and maybe even out wrestle him, especially once he starts to dig into that body, start to land shots on him, and Covington starts to wilt to those shots and be able to take advantage of him from like making him react to the shots and be able to counter wrestle him. And ultimately just bring it back to the feet and then start to, again, wear on Covington. And I just feel like that's going to be the similar fight, but it's going to be half of the first fight. Like, I feel like Usman's shots going to be felt much earlier. Covington's going to feel them much earlier. And Covington's going to feel that new improvement, that new confidence in Usman striking and feel more power behind the shots now and see the improvement. I feel like Usman's going to look even better than he looked in his last fight. He's fighting a lesser striker. And I feel like I said, he's going to be get those shots off. And Covington's not going to feel them the best. And Covington's not going to be able to find that success. And ultimately, Usman's going to find those shots earlier. And that's going to happen early. And then ultimately, again, Covington's hand's going to drop. Usman's going to be able to find those shots up top. And he's going to put him out within that second round. So in this fight, I have Kamaru Usman via second round TKO. And that concludes my fight predictions for the full-card fights for UFC 268, Usman versus Covington 2. And as always, thanks for watching.